Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So here I want to cover combat enchantments for damage dealers. Which should you be using, and ultimately the very poor state that a lot of them are in. If you're not aware, there are 5 different ones you can use in the game. 3 you'll find starting out, and 2 you'll have to work towards getting later on. Alternatively, you can just buy all of them from other players. What I mean by this is when you go to the enchantment vendor, you'll only find the Poisoned Thorn, the Cursed Burn, and the Battle Tempered. And as a quick tip, do not buy any of them. It's an utter waste of your astral diamonds. We'll discuss why in this video. All damage focused combat enchantments have one thing in common, and that's the equip bonus, which just gives a raw boost to your damage output. On green it's just a measly 2%, but on celestial it gets up to a whopping 12%. And that's a true 12%, a true multiplicative 12%, multiplying all your damage by that value and increasing it, unlike a lot of other damage buffs. That makes these special and also very impactful. Once you get to the end game level and you can get a celestial or mythic enchantment, definitely go for one that is gonna give that damage boost. But from there, they all have something unique with regards to their second benefit. So for example, Battle Tempered. This says it's going to give you a bit of a shield. Now you may have seen my previous video. I did discuss its ridiculous state, and it's still that way. Whenever you attack, you gain these stacks, and you can gain up to a 240 magnitude shield. You might think that's decent, but unfortunately that shield is not scaling off any of your stats, which means the shield is absolutely minuscule. You can see like 2% of our hit points versus what it should be at nearly 20%. Ultimately, an utterly ridiculous combat enchantment that has no use at all, and is unfortunate because this has been out for over 2.5 years and the devs seem to refuse to acknowledge its pitiful state, and that's just how it's been. So definitely avoid this combat enchantment. Do not use. Next up, the Poisoned Thorn. This one claims to basically add 30 magnitude to all of your at-will, encounter, and daily power attacks. And usually it does that. However, sometimes it just doesn't trigger on certain attacks, and that can, I believe, be due to an internal cooldown. We can see we just attack here, and when you look at our damage and our hit count, we get like 27 hits of our Chilling Cloud and only 19 of Poisoned Thorn. So it can't exactly add to every single hit, which does result in it doing less damage than it technically should, which means overall it's not going to perform very well. When we look at it over a 3-minute damage test, including artifact calls, Poisoned Thorn results in like 2% of our damage. Keep in mind this is on wizard. If you're a class that can like attack a whole lot more often, maybe it can do a bit better, but most classes can't, and they'll hit even less than a wizard, resulting in this doing even less damage. And 2% is utterly abysmal when we look at other combat enchantments. So I'll confidently say it's a combat enchantment you should currently avoid. The only reason to potentially use it is for the slow effect in, say, multi-target or on controllable enemies. And that would be because it can reduce the enemy's movement speed by 12%, stacking up to 3 times. So next up we have the Cursed Burn. And this is similar to Poisoned Thorn. It has like extra magnitude, but this is more by itself. You'll trigger the effect and the target will just take damage over time. Like you can trigger it once there and it will deal damage then just for the period that it's active. And you can stack it up a little bit and otherwise even have a chance to cause the target to explode, causing area of effect damage. Ultimately, you might think it's good, but again, the magnitude is just so minuscule that when you look at an overall damage test, you'll find it's like 4% of your overall damage. Better than Poisoned Thorn, but still not good compared to what other combat enchantments can grant you. This again is encompassing artifact calls over the course of 3 minutes and a bit, and so would be representative of endgame. And Curse Burn does have the thing where it doesn't really matter what your hit rate is, as at least if you're hitting once every second, you'll basically gain the maximum amount of damage from this. Whereas Poisoned Thorn can have a little bit of a higher damage output depending on how fast you can hit. But ultimately, I wouldn't use this combat enchantment either. So the fourth one is the wild card. Now this one you won't normally find at the beginning of the game. You'll have to buy from other players, or you'll have to jump and do the campaign, the Demon Web Pits. Here in the enchantment section, you can buy it after getting certain campaign progress and getting the currency to do so. It does already cost you 100,000 astral diamonds to get it, and otherwise, this bonus is just not good at all for single target, because the way it works is you gain 1.2% extra damage for each target you face, capped at 5. If this cap was like 10 or 15, then this combat enchantment would be good. But as it stands, the maximum damage it can give you in multi-target content when against 5 enemies is 6% damage bonus. And that's just not any good. On top of that, it's a combat enchantment that's going to be next to useless in single target. Like, it would only give 1.2% damage buff. You may as well use Poisoned Thorn or Curse Burn instead of that. So, our saving grace is the last combat enchantment, the Lightning Flash. And some may argue this is overpowered, particularly when you look at the rest, and so you might call for nerfs. You may very well be in the right to do so, because it is super powerful. This one again comes from a campaign. You can't get it starting in the game unless you buy it from other players, but you'd get it here in the Menzoberranzan campaign. Again, 100,000 astral diamonds and this campaign currency, and you can upgrade it from there. But the added bonus for this combat enchantment is 3.6% accuracy and 3.6% critical strike, stacking up 3 times. Ultimately, on this celestial quality, you get 10.8% accuracy and 10.8% critical strike. If you're unaware of how much effect that is, well, we'll have a look at some math of when you are, say, just missing that amount of stat from the max. What you find is this: the Lightning Flash giving you those stat boosts. When you go from like 79.2% up to 90%, you'd gain over 11% damage gain. That compared to Curse Burn at only 4% or Poisoned Thorn at only 2% makes Lightning Flash so much more powerful at 11%. However, you could fix your stats a bit so that you would have it all benefiting accuracy. Endgame players will know what I mean, and stat balancers, but that would mean Lightning Flash would go down a bit of ineffectiveness to 9.75%. Still super powerful compared to what Curse Burn or Poisoned Thorn could grant you. Now if we check versus the wild card, even if you're using the wild card with 5 targets, you can see it's just still better to have the Lightning Flash by over 6%. You might be worried that, sure, wild card would give you the bonus instantly when you enter combat, versus Lightning Flash, you need to get the stacks. Well, you just do a few quick hits and you already have 3 stacks. It's super easy to gain them, super easy to maintain them too. Even if you use a power in combat and don't hit anything, you're gaining a Lightning Flash stack. Icy Terrain doesn't hit anything, you still gain a Lightning Flash stack. So it's super easy to gain those stats and maintain them, which means that reliability difference between Lightning Flash and the wild card is out the window. And ultimately, the Lightning Flash just dominates compared to the other combat enchantments by a mile. There's just no question right now which combat enchantment you should use as a damage dealer. It's always just going to be Lightning Flash. There's just no competition right now. I don't know if the devs intended to do so. Did they even look at the balance of them when they decided to introduce Celestial ranks? Because we just got that this module. They went and gave a little bit of a boost to Poisoned Thorn, a bit of a boost to Curse Burn, due to them getting increased a rank. But that did not result in any way to much damage gain. Curse Burn is still only like 4%. Poisoned Thorn is only like 2%. And Lightning Flash is sitting here at over 11% effectiveness gain. Honestly, this is a very poor state for those other 4 combat enchantments. They seriously need some improvements to be competitive. The alternative, of course, would be to reduce the effectiveness of Lightning Flash. Imagine they made it not be able to stack up and only gave 3.6% accuracy and 3.6% crit strike. Then it would at least be comparable to the others a bit more. Many of you though would be pretty sorry to see us losing that many stats. We made our builds to fit those. We bought items around that bonus, making sure we'd get our stats capped out. For example, if we all of a sudden missed all of that, we would then need to go and spend more resources to get different companions, to get different enchantments, different insignias, different gear to fit around that. So the most player friendly option would potentially increase the effectiveness of Poisoned Thorn and Curse Burn and even the wild card to just make them competitive. It would mean them dealing an awful lot more damage. Like Poisoned Thorn, for example, would have to do like at least 5 times more damage, resulting in just a simple 5 times more magnitude gain here. It would need to deal like 150 extra magnitude per attack. The way it stands, it's just no question which is the best: Lightning Flash. The others just fall short by miles. They seriously need some updating or potentially a rework to the Lightning Flash. I would be hesitant to do that though, due to, again, player investment. Also, I personally like having an easy amount of stats and then being able to choose gear and other bonuses that would give damage instead of just stats all the time. But that's a personal preference. Either way, I'll be able to adapt. But once again, thanks for watching. Just be aware of the state of these. A special thank you to all of these channel members, and we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.